guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another Vlogmas video. In today's video I'm gonna talk about my top 10 true crime documentaries on Netflix. I am a very big fan of true crime. I've been watching crime documentaries for years, to the point where I think I had a slightly unhealthy obsession with them. There's two things that I would like to get out of the way first. So the first thing is I'd like to give a trigger warning here. This is going to be a video about true crime shows. I won't be going into graphic detail or graphic descriptions of anything. I won't be giving like spoilers, but obviously I will still touch on very sensitive and traumatic or traumatizing topics such as violence, SA, abuse, obviously murders. You're very sensitive, maybe this is not the video for you. The second thing is, I feel like this goes without saying, but if I say that a documentary is like really good or something is amazing, I don't talk about the crime itself. I am fully aware that all of the crimes are more than horrible. It's about the production quality of the docuseries, or if I found something super interesting, the way the crime was solved or the way it couldn't be solved. I'm not a psychopath. By the way, sorry for the lighting. Normally I like to film during the day because the lighting is better, but it's winter in the UK and I work full-time, so it can't always happen. At least I guess in this case it fits the theme of the video. We can even do more dramatic lighting. This should be red. I feel like it looks a bit more pink on video. Without further ado, let's get into it. These are in no particular order, but the first one I'm gonna talk about is Conversations with a Killer, the tapes of Ted Bundy. No, the Ted Bundy tapes. I don't even know the name, Jesus. I feel like Ted Bundy is one of like the most famous serial killers, or I guess maybe in this case it's infamous. This whole series became very popular on Netflix, so a lot of people are probably aware of him and his existence. There are also other documentaries that I've watched of him. There's even like an actual movie. He was a serial killer in the US. He was assaulting women and then he was murdering them. He was an absolute narcissist and he was just going around the US killing. It's a very interesting case. He even ended up defending himself in court because that's how much of a narcissist he was. The documentary is really good. The second one is The Ripper, and this one is about a serial killer in the UK. He was killing, again, women. I feel like most of them are killing women in the north of England, like Manchester, Yorkshire, that sort of area in the 70s. And I feel like for those of us who live in the UK, it's that much more thrilling because it's very close to home. One of the killings happened in a yard in the hospital that I lived next to during all of my student years. Number 3 is Abducted in Plain Sight. I thought it was such an interesting case. At the same time, it was extremely infuriating. It was about a little girl who gets groomed and abducted by her neighbor, who is also a family friend. I'm not gonna give anything away, but it's a very interesting case, and in my opinion, the parents should have been in prison. I'll let you watch it and draw your own conclusions. Number 4, Night Stalker. It's again about a serial killer in the US. I think he was in California. He was murdering both men and women. He murdered a lot of people before he got caught. Extremely interesting investigation as well. The only thing is, this one is probably one of the more graphic ones. The crimes were very graphic. They were described by people. They showed some photos. Obviously it's Netflix, so there's a limitation on what they show, but they did show a lot, so this one is more graphic. Bear that in mind. I couldn't stop watching it until I got to the end of it. I've never heard of this serial killer in general. Like, I've heard of other ones, not because I've watched their series, but because, I don't know, they're famous or infamous. And this one, I can't believe I've never heard of him. Number 5 is The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez. This one is about a little boy in America. I think he was about 8 or 9 years old, and he was failed by the American Child Protection Services. His parents abused him all his life. He was basically beaten to death. That one is one of the heaviest ones. It's very eye-opening, very heavy to watch. I guess that's another warning, but it's very interesting because it shows a lot of the flaws of the American Child Protection Services, and I'm sure these are flaws that other countries also have. It shows everything that's wrong with the system and how it doesn't work, and how a young boy lost his life in a very horrible way. Number 6 is November 13th, Attack on Paris. This one is about the terrorist attack in Paris that happened in 2015, I believe, on the 13th of November. I feel like this one hit very close to home for all of us who live in Europe. Paris is a very iconic symbol of Europe. I had actually been to Paris days before it happened. I feel like it shook the whole of Europe and the rest of the world as well. Very heavy. You're gonna hear first-hand experience from some of the victims. They're gonna describe how they felt, how the events went. Just listening to their stories is hard. I felt very personally connected. You might cry. I did. Number 7, The Keepers. This one was very interesting. At least for me, in the beginning it felt very unconvincing and I wasn't invested in the story at all. It's about the unsolved murder of Sister Kathy Sesnick. She was a nun in a Catholic school in Baltimore, I believe, in the US. She disappeared. Her body was found later on. The series starts with these two ladies who are trying to solve her murder, which to this day hasn't been actually solved. It kind of starts as if it's just gonna be about their theories and the research. It didn't feel like super interesting series in the beginning, but I stuck with it and it became very, very interesting. The investigation, the materials that they have gathered, they're all really good. It goes into all the sexual assaults that were happening in the school, and the priest, the headmaster priest, whatever the title is, and how he was abusing girls, and there was like a whole network of them. And I think Sister Kathy was onto him. She got involved, dives really deep into the problem of Catholic churches. If you decide to watch it, which you should, bear with it. Like in the beginning it's not very convincing, but it gets really, really interesting. Number 8 is a bit different. It's Terrorism Close Calls. This is a series about terrorist attacks that were actually prevented. They show some really, really horrible plots. They talk about how the investigations went, how the different agencies, because it covers different countries, so how the different agencies figured out these people are doing what they were doing. Some of the attacks that were prevented were absolutely horrific, but it's very interesting. I really recommend this one, and I feel like this one is very low-key, very underrated, because I don't really hear people talking about it. I might be wrong. But number 9 is Athlete A. I think this one was very, very popular on Netflix, so probably a lot of people have already watched it. But it's about the scandal with Larry Nassar. He was the doctor for the USA gymnastics team, and for many years he was abusing the girls and no one knew about it, or at least a lot of people didn't know about it, and a lot of people kept their eyes shut. This whole story blew up, I think, after the Olympic Games in Rio at some point, like relatively recently compared to some of the other. So yeah, it was a very famous, popular story in social media as well and everywhere, but this documentary basically goes through the whole ordeal and it's really interesting. And last but not least, number 10 is Confessions of a Serial Killer. This one didn't have that much of a intricate, complicated backstory. It was just about this serial killer in the US. He was killing women, I think mainly prostitutes if I remember correctly. It's the serial killer who's telling the story. So he's in prison and there's, I think it was Piers Morgan interviewing him in prison, so you get to hear his point of view, and I think that's what makes it so interesting, because most of the documentaries are just someone telling the story. He did some pretty disturbing things. These are my top 10 true crime documentaries on Netflix. If you're into crime documentaries, I think you're really gonna enjoy these in a non-psychopathic way. Feel free to leave me suggestions for good ones to watch in the comments, because I feel like I've watched them all. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye guys!